247 miles above Earth, something extraordinary is taking shape. A constellation of 4,425 satellites, each weighing 573 pounds, forming an invisible dome that could redefine national defense. This is SpaceX's classified Project Golden Dome. $175 billion, 6 years of development, and a single mission: detect and neutralize hypersonic threats before they reach American soil. The concept emerged in 2019 when Russian Avangard missiles reached Mach 27, 18,000 miles per hour, rendering traditional radar systems obsolete within 3.2 seconds of detection. Traditional defense relies on ground-based sensors with 12-minute warning windows. Golden Dome promises 42 minutes, enough time to calculate, decide, and respond. But building a dome around Earth isn't engineering, it's orchestration. 68 Falcon 9 launches, 412 tons of hardware, and physics that doesn't forgive mistakes. Each satellite carries an infrared sensor array operating at cryogenic temperatures of -321 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to detect a coffee cup's heat signature from orbit. The satellites orbit in 17 separate planes, each tilted at 53 degrees. This geometry creates overlapping coverage zones. No point on Earth goes unwatched for more than 1.7 seconds. SpaceX's Starlink infrastructure provided the blueprint. But where Starlink carries data, Golden Dome carries responsibility. Every satellite cost $39 million, 4 times a standard Starlink unit. Manufacturing happens in Hawthorne, California. Building 44, where robotic arms assemble sensor arrays with tolerances measured in microns, 1/50th the width of a human hair. Each satellite takes 17 days to build. 348 engineers work in rotating 12-hour shifts. The facility produces 6.2 satellites per week, a pace that would make Cold War-era NASA weep. The brain of each satellite is a radiation-hardened processor running at 2.4 gigahertz. It processes 87,000 infrared frames per second, analyzing thermal signatures against a database of 16 million known objects. But hardware means nothing without propulsion. Each satellite carries 16 ion thrusters using xenon gas, the same element that fills luxury car headlights, now repurposed for orbital ballet. These thrusters fire in pulses lasting 0.003 seconds, creating thrust equivalent to the weight of 3 pennies. Yet over months, they'll adjust orbits with centimeter precision. Launch day, Vandenberg Space Force Base. The Falcon 9 stands 229 feet tall, loaded with 60 satellites stacked like plates in a robotic dishwasher. At T-3 seconds, 9 Merlin engines ignite, 7.6 million pounds of thrust. The flame trench erupts in a river of fire visible from 80 miles away. 62 seconds later, the rocket passes through Max Q, maximum aerodynamic pressure, where the atmosphere pushes back with 11 million pounds of force. The airframe flexes, rivets groan, physics negotiates. At 247 miles altitude, the fairings separate. 60 satellites see space for the first time. Solar panels unfold like mechanical orchids, each panel generating 2,800 watts. Deployment is automated. Every 97 seconds, a satellite releases. Spring-loaded mechanisms provide exactly 0.8 meters per second of separation velocity. Too fast risks collision. Too slow invites orbital chaos. Meanwhile, the first stage returns. Supersonic retro burn at 68 kilometers. Grid fins deploy. The booster falls through its own exhaust plume at terminal velocity. The drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, waits in the Pacific. 22 minutes after launch, landing legs deploy. 740,000 pounds of rocket settles onto a target the size of a tennis court. But launches are the spectacle. The real work happens in silence. In Redmond, Washington, engineers monitor 4,425 satellites simultaneously from a control room that never sleeps. Every satellite transmits health data every 4.3 seconds. Battery voltage, thruster fuel levels, sensor temperature. 62 million data points per hour flowing through fiber optic cables at the speed of light. The system's artificial intelligence was trained on 17 years of infrared imagery. Every rocket launch, every aircraft, every wildfire large enough to create heat signatures above ambient temperature. Machine learning algorithms classify threats in 0.7 seconds. Is it a missile? A satellite? A Boeing 747 at cruising altitude? The AI decides with 99.4% accuracy. But the true challenge isn't detection, it's discrimination. On average, 412 objects enter Earth's atmosphere daily. Meteors, space debris, defunct satellites. Golden Dome must ignore them all. September 2023. The system faced its first real test. A Chinese Long March rocket failed during launch. Debris fell across the Pacific. Golden Dome tracked 47 fragments simultaneously. Each fragment was cataloged, trajectory calculated, impact point predicted. The largest piece, a fuel tank weighing 2,000 pounds, splashed down exactly where the system predicted, 400 miles west of Midway Atoll. The satellites themselves face constant threats, micrometeorites traveling at 44,000 miles per hour, radiation that degrades electronics, and the Kessler syndrome, the cascading collision nightmare that haunts every orbital engineer. Each satellite carries a debris shield, 17 layers of Kevlar and aluminum, each separated by precisely 4 millimeters. A micrometeorite hits at hypersonic speed, vaporizing on impact, spreading energy across the layers. In orbit, there's no maintenance crew, no spare parts, no second chances. Every component must survive 10 years minimum. The solar panels alone undergo 3,000 thermal cycles, from -292 to +248 Fahrenheit. The satellites communicate through laser links, invisible highways of light connecting the constellation. Ground stations in Alaska, Greenland, and Australia receive the data. Massive 40-meter dish antennas track satellites overhead, downloading sensor data during the 7-minute window when line of sight exists. The integration wasn't seamless. NORAD's existing systems were built in 1982. 41-year-old code written in Fortran, a programming language older than most engineers in the room. SpaceX engineers spent 14 months building translation layers, software bridges between 1980s defense architecture and modern AI systems. Like teaching Latin speakers to understand quantum physics, testing required simulating every nightmare scenario. Engineers programmed fake hypersonic launches from North Korea, Russia, China. The AI had to distinguish between real threats and tests. One false alarm could trigger international crisis. The constellation's geometry creates redundancy. If one satellite fails, 3 others cover its zone. Lose an entire orbital plane, 60 satellites, and coverage drops only 12%. But redundancy has costs. More satellites mean more launches. More launches mean more fuel. SpaceX consumed 412,000 gallons of liquid oxygen per launch. Across 68 missions, that's 28 million gallons. The environmental impact sparked debate. Each launch releases 429 tons of CO2. Times 68 launches, 29,000 tons, equivalent to 6,000 cars driven for 1 year. SpaceX's response: carbon offset programs, 17,000 acres of reforestation in Washington state, solar farms in Nevada, generating enough clean energy to power 4,000 homes. But the true environmental concern isn't carbon, it's light pollution. Astronomers worldwide protested. Satellites reflect sunlight, creating streaks across telescope images, interfering with deep space observation. SpaceX developed VisorSat technology, deployable sunshades that reduce reflectivity by 73%. Each satellite now carries a black coating, absorbing 94% of visible light. The geopolitical implications are staggering. China announced Project Heavenly Net, their counter-constellation. Russia proposed Ekran 2. Europe debates whether to build independent systems or rely on American protection. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 prohibits weapons in orbit. But is Golden Dome a weapon? It doesn't attack. It observes. Yet observation enables attack. The legal arguments fill 17,000 pages. At the Pentagon, analysts run war games. Scenario: hostile nation attacks satellites. Response options appear on screens. Diplomatic protest, economic sanctions, kinetic retaliation. Each choice cascades into complexity. The satellites themselves could become targets. Anti-satellite missiles exist. China demonstrated one in 2007, destroying their own weather satellite and creating 3,000 pieces of trackable debris. SpaceX installed collision avoidance systems. Each satellite monitors 42,000 objects in orbit. If collision probability exceeds 1 in 10,000, automated maneuvers activate. No human approval needed. The system executed 473 collision avoidance maneuvers in its first year. The closest call, a defunct Russian satellite passed within 47 meters. In orbital terms, a near miss measured in heartbeats. Operational costs run $47 million monthly. Personnel salaries, ground station maintenance, satellite replenishment, and the invisible cost, opportunity. Every dollar here isn't spent on roads, schools, or healthcare.
Critics argue the threat is exaggerated. No hypersonic weapon has ever been used in combat. The technology remains experimental. Are we building defenses against phantoms? Proponents counter with history. Radar seemed unnecessary until Pearl Harbor. Missile defense was paranoia until Scud attacks in 1991. The best defense is built before you need it. The satellites also serve secondary purposes: weather monitoring, climate science, GPS augmentation, forest fire detection from space. The sensors designed for war find peace in peacetime. In August 2024, Golden Dome detected a wildfire in British Columbia 17 minutes before ground sensors. Evacuations began early. 14 lives saved. The Pentagon didn't advertise it. The constellation generates unexpected data, atmospheric density measurements, ionospheric disturbances, even detecting volcanic eruptions before seismographs. Science emerges from surveillance. But data creates dilemmas. The system sees everything, including things governments prefer hidden: nuclear facility construction, troop movements, strategic bomber deployments. Transparency cuts both ways. International agreements limit data sharing. France receives 37% fidelity, Germany 42%, Israel 78%, the United Kingdom 96%. Trust has resolution. The constellation's lifespan was projected at 7 years, but technology evolves. Quantum sensors promise detection ranges 23 times greater. Today's miracle becomes tomorrow's obsolescence. SpaceX already designs Golden Dome 2, satellites 40% smaller, sensors 90% more sensitive. Launch costs reduced by half. Moore's Law reaches orbit. The workforce behind Golden Dome spans generations. 74-year-old aerospace engineers who designed Apollo work alongside 23-year-old programmers who've never known life without smartphones. They work in Building 44, where walls display photos of Gemini, Shuttle, Dragon. History isn't decoration, it's reminder. We've done impossible things before. The launch schedule never stops. Every 14 days, another Falcon 9, another 60 satellites. The assembly line runs with automotive precision, except the cars go to space. Recovery crews work around the clock. After landing, boosters are transported back to Hawthorne, inspected, refurbished, reflown. The fastest turnaround, 17 days from landing to relaunch. Each booster is rated for 15 flights. Some have exceeded 20. The economics are brutal. Reusability is an advantage, it's survival. At $67 million per launch, new rockets would bankrupt the program. The ground stations consume 13 megawatts, enough power for 11,000 homes. Cooling systems pump 4,000 gallons of water per minute through server racks. The electricity bill alone, $2 million monthly. Inside, fiber optic cables span 47 miles, enough to connect San Francisco to San Jose. Data centers maintain temperature at exactly 68 degrees. 1 degree variation risks hardware failure. The human cost is measured in time zones. Engineers in California coordinate with Air Force personnel in Colorado, analysts in Virginia, diplomats in Brussels. Someone is always awake. Someone is always watching. Burnout is epidemic. The average mission controller stays 37 months before transferring. The stress of watching for World War III takes its toll in subtle ways, yet they remain. Some for patriotism, others for the technology, many for simple reason. Someone has to do it, and they're the ones who can. The satellites continue their silent orbit, 47,000 miles per hour, completing one orbit every 97 minutes, 16 sunrises per day, watching, waiting, protecting. Ground truth remains elusive. Has Golden Dome deterred attacks, or have there been no attacks to deter? Success in prevention is invisible. Failure would be obvious. The program's classification makes assessment difficult. Congress receives quarterly briefings. The public gets annual summaries. Transparency and security dance their eternal contradiction. Historians will debate this moment. Did we build security or trigger arms race? Create deterrence or invite escalation? The verdict awaits decades we haven't lived. Meanwhile, the constellation grows. Satellite 4326 launched last Tuesday. Satellite 4425, the final unit, will launch next month. Then the system reaches full operational capability. The dome closes. SpaceX estimates the complete constellation will function for minimum 7 years, maximum 12. Then decisions await: expand, upgrade, deorbit. Each choice carries consequences measured in billions. The technology will spread. Commercial versions are already planned. Agricultural monitoring, disaster response, climate modeling. The sensors designed for defense will serve humanity in ways their creators never imagined. Young engineers will improve upon it. Children who watch today's launches will design tomorrow's systems. Innovation is relay race, not solo sprint. Golden Dome is chapter, not conclusion. Some will argue we've militarized space, others that we've secured it. Both are correct. The orbital realm now holds mirrors reflecting Earth's conflicts and hopes simultaneously. The cost, $175 billion, equals the GDP of New Zealand. The value? Impossible to calculate. How do you price prevention? What's the worth of war that didn't happen? Decades from now, these satellites will deorbit. Controlled burns over Pacific Ocean. Spectacular fireballs marking endings. But the data they collected, the threats they detected, the deterrence they provided, that legacy endures. Golden Dome represents humanity's latest answer to ancient question. How do we protect what we love? With technology, with vigilance, with hope that the dome we built never needs to prove its worth. 4,425 satellites, 47,000 miles per hour, $175 billion, and a single promise. The sky watches back. The Golden Dome holds. The shield persists.